Okay, welcome back, everyone. I have an emergency podcast. Earlier this evening, Zion Williamson, the star player for the New Orleans Pelicans, was named in a third lawsuit over his exclusive marketing rights. A gentleman from Louisiana by the name of Cedric Johnson filed a 9-count complaint in the Miami-Dade County Circuit Court against Prime Sports Marketing, Gina Ford, and Andrew Lucci. Williamson isn't named as a defendant in the complaint, but the complaint and the lawsuit is all about Williamson. As many of you who are following the story may be aware, Williamson's attorneys filed a preemptive declaratory judgment action lawsuit in North Carolina, close to a year ago, trying to get out of an exclusive marketing arrangement or exclusive marketing agreement that he had signed with Prime Sports and Gina Ford. Williamson alleges that the marketing agreement was signed while he was still eligible as a member of the Duke Blue Devils, and as such, any such agreement is void under the North Carolina Uniform Athlete Agents Act. Following that preemptive lawsuit, Gina Ford and Prime Sports filed their own counter lawsuit in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court, seeking roughly $100 million in damages based upon a breach of an alleged exclusive marketing agreement. In short, Ford and Prime Sports alleged that Williamson agreed to make them his exclusive marketing agent on all branding and endorsement deals. And for an athlete of the magnitude of someone like Zion Williamson, $100 million does not seem so far-fetched. Those two cases are presently on pause because in the Florida lawsuit, Williamson has appealed a decision denying his motion to dismiss to Florida's 3rd District Court of Appeal. Williamson's argument is that the Florida court does not have any personal jurisdiction over him and that only the North Carolina suit should proceed. So those two cases are on pause, and while they remained on pause, earlier this evening, a new lawsuit was filed against Williamson by a former collegiate basketball player that he knew back in Louisiana who befriended Williamson and Williamson's family while they were in high school together. So I'm going to read, this is filed in the Miami-Dade County Circuit Court. The lawsuit was filed roughly 5 hours ago. And I'll just read right off the top. This is a case about defendants failing to honor or even acknowledge basic promises that they made to Johnson after he landed them a once-in-a-lifetime client. Defendants promised Johnson that he would receive 5% of all compensation received by Ford and Prime Sports if Johnson introduced them to Zion Williamson and his family and helped facilitate a relationship. The next paragraph continues, and Johnson delivered in every way possible. He was instrumental in Zion signing a contract with Prime Sports in April 2019 after Zion declared for the NBA draft, or at a time when he was no longer deemed eligible as a basketball student athlete. Simply put, without Johnson's efforts, Prime Sports would not have landed Zion as a contract. Sadly, after Prime Sports and Zion signed the contract, defendants refused to honor or acknowledge their 5% agreement with Johnson. I'm not going to read every allegation in the complaint, but it essentially alleges that Cedric Johnson brokered the introduction to Gina Ford and Prime Sports and was basically the finder of the relationship and is entitled to a 5% commission on all revenues earned under that contract. The problem with the allegation is I think it might be dead on arrival. While this new lawsuit takes great pains to point out that the meetings and the contract between Ford and Williamson was signed after he had declared for the NBA draft and therefore wasn't an eligible collegiate basketball player any longer, the complaint makes a fatal mistake. At I think it's going to be paragraph 18, where the plaintiff, Cedric Johnson, admits that in January 19th, Zion Williamson's mother and stepfather had a meeting with both him and Ford to discuss potential marketing, branding, and endorsement capabilities of Prime Sports, as well as Ford's business contacts. That's a very critical date, January 19th. This meeting between Ford, Johnson, and Zion Williamson's parents allegedly occurred. What's significant about that? Well, in January 2019, the Duke basketball season was underway, and Williamson was playing in games as an eligible athlete. It would be several. It wouldn't be until several months later that Williamson declared for the NBA draft. So here it is. A meeting was brokered with Williamson's family while Williamson was still an eligible student athlete, meaning he was still a collegiate player. He had 3 years of eligibility remaining when this meeting supposedly occurred. Under a North Carolina law that is there's a Uniform Athlete Agents Act that has been adopted in, some 35 to 40 states. North Carolina is one of them. And under the UAAA, an agent is prohibited from initiating contact with a student athlete unless that agent is registered as an athlete agent with the Secretary of State. Now, while Ford and Johnson didn't meet with Williamson directly, they met with his mother and his stepfather, but the definition of contact under the UAAA also includes indirect contact, and meeting with Williamson's mother and stepfather would constitute indirect contact under the UAAA, and as a consequence, Ford's marketing agreement with Williamson might be declared void based upon that violation, and Johnson's lawsuit seeking 5% of compensation from Ford might be dead on arrival as well, because he pled right into a violation of the UAAA. And if the Miami-Dade County Circuit Court follows North Carolina law, this third lawsuit could potentially have the effect of knocking two of the lawsuits out and handing an easy victory to Zion Williamson. Now, these are just allegations in a complaint. This was only filed this evening. Williamson will get anywhere from 20 to 30 days to respond. I mean, I forget the rules for answering in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court. I should know this. I'm a Florida litigator, but I think the date of service it depends when he's served with the summons and a complaint, or I'm sorry, when the agents are served with a summons and a complaint. So this lawsuit is newly filed, and we will not hear the other side of the story for probably at least 1 month. But at least for now, this new lawsuit throws an intriguing potentially a monkey wrench into the lawsuits over Williamson's exclusive marketing rights. This could be an explosive new case which could impact and decide the outcome of the other cases. I mean, let's face it, if there was if there was a meeting conducted before he declared for the NBA draft, it's game over and Williamson wins the lawsuit if the Florida court decides to follow North Carolina law. And looking ahead for down the road repercussions, this could potentially affect Duke basketball, because here you have a player engaging through his family in meetings with an agent, which would be a violation of NCAA rules and could cost Duke significantly through an enforcement by the NCAA. So this could have many tributaries, branching out from this lawsuit. This lawsuit could undermine Gina Ford's case, hand victory to Zion Williamson, and could have serious repercussions for Duke's 2018, 2019 collegiate basketball season, and places that program, at least for that academic year, under a giant cloud now if these allegations turn out to be true. So that's all we have. This is kind of a late-breaking story. Now, this is not a pro se complaint. Anyone who thinks that this is some random person who doesn't have credentials or isn't represented by a lawyer, put that out of your mind. He's represented by a business law firm based in Miami, Florida. This complaint was very professionally drafted, 9 pages. 9 counts, roughly 20 pages. There are exhibits, partially signed contracts. So this does pass the smell test, and the end result of this is that it could have serious repercussions to the other lawsuits involving Williamson and potentially to Duke University. So that's the emergency podcast. I'm going to be following this story, as new developments occur. But this is a huge development affecting Zion Williamson and Duke University, and I've posted all of the pertinent pleadings and allegations on my Twitter account. So follow me at Wallach Legal, WALLACHLEGAL, if you want to take a closer look at some of the screenshots of the complaint. But the most incredible allegation was the admission of a meeting that took place in January 2019 while Williamson still had remaining collegiate eligibility. That one allegation could loom as a major story with impacts all over the place. So thanks for tuning in. And if you have any questions that you want to direct my way, just DM me on Twitter at Wallach Legal, and I'll try my best to follow up. Thank you.